Welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast, coming to you every week from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the westful ice of the Galactic Empire. Join your hosts, John Mark Tolley, Garrett K. Jones, and Brian Karasik, as they discuss the various facets of the saga's lore, characters, review the films, and discuss every tidbit of news coming out of Lucasfilm. And remember, this isn't just my Star Wars, this isn't just your Star Wars, this is our Star Wars.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Good to see you folks again.
it is. Yeah, it is.
Hey,
And
hey.
we're actually recording on May the 4th be with you. Happy Star Wars Day.
May
guys.
the 4th. Yes. Happy Star
To those who observe.
Wars Day.
Yes. It was fun. My mom actually tagged me on something.
Oh, and we are. Yeah.
We're having some lag. Can you hear me now?
Oh, I know,
My
it just
flagpole
started with me
out there
too.
This morning.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Can you see me? Okay.
Can you feel me?
Ugh.
Papa, can you hear me?
That's awesome. Okay. Anyway,
So yes, I hung my
Oh,
Galactic
this
Empire
is
flag
Star
on my
Wars
flagpole this
Day.
morning.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
yeah.
Fly the flag. I think I'll leave it up for
Nice.
the week.
Nice.
Well, you should. I mean, the day that this goes to air and the title of the episode is Revenge of the Sixth, it might as well just stay up through the week. Because, by the time we get to the weekend, by Mother's Day, it's going to be, the Force Awakens.
Awake 10th.
Yeah. God, I'm sorry. And
I think we can get a little too far into that at some point. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were planning initially on doing our mall review. However, somebody who shall remain nameless has not yet finished the mall series. Brian, how dare you? No.
I think it should be savored, if you ask me.
But I unfortunately have yet to finish it.
Don't feel too bad, Mark, because I downloaded the episodes onto my phone in hopes of watching them during my break today. And because we'd already had the conversation about pushing it back a week, I'm like, you know what? I'll wait until after we record so I can watch it.
But
So
before we
you're
get
company.
there, let me ask first, how have your guys' weeks been so far?
I'll quickly talk on mine. It's been like my weekend was really good. So Saturday was Free Comic Book Day. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with it, Free Comic Book Day is exactly what it sounds like. The first Saturday in May is usually reserved for that celebration. And so a variety of different comic publishers put out, depending on the region and stuff like that, they put out issues to kind of garner interest in new story arcs and comic lines that are being produced for the next year. There's gonna one is going to be a Predators versus Planet of the Apes crossover by Marvel, which looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. But for me personally, I was down at my local shop, DJ's Collectibles, which the shop is run by someone who's a member of the 501st. He usually that on Saturday he was dressed up as a scout trooper, but in the past he's done like Clone Commander Vil, and he had a Boba Fett costume at one point, which is now just in a case. But I was there. I was selling my books, and I ended up making like almost about $175. Like one gal came out of the shop. She saw that I was a local author, and she's like, "Are these your books?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I started, telling her about all the books that I had, and she's like, "I want to buy an entire set of your fantasy series." I'm like, "Done."
Nicely
It was
done.
great.
Nice.
It was worth it.
Well, for me, Friday we had my sister's had a dance recital. She's a she's Down syndrome, and her group. It wasn't just special needs. It was a whole other, like everybody, like all levels of dance, which was fun, but it was really, really long. It was like 3 hours long without intermission.
Oh my gosh.
So it was very, very, very long, but worth it. And then Saturday we had a wedding. My nephew's best friend got married, and it was really, we felt really special being invited because there were only like maybe 40, 50 people at the wedding. So the fact that we got an invite to it made it very, very special. But it was a really nice time. But and then today I had to deal with the dust storm while driving my bus, which was a lot of fun. It's zero visibility and 40 mile an hour gusts was, yeah.
No.
So that's what was my weekend was like.
Our local library did a fandom event, so I was in costume as Palpatine on Saturday, visiting with the children.
Turning them to the dark side.
Well, unfortunately, there was another a Jedi there, another cosplayer who was a bit more engaging.
How many signups did you get for the Inquisitorius?
There was one kid who showed up there. He was in a pretty good Wookiee costume. He said a Wookiee hoodie with a Wookiee mask on. Like it was the first year they'd done this, so we're hoping to get some more.
Cool.
But next year more turnout. But it was fun, and I made a friend in the Jedi guys, a local cosplayer here. I had not met him before, so
that's really cool.
That was fun.
So, Garrett, what are we talking about today? Or who should I say?
So our episode is entitled Revenge of the Sixth, but we are going to be doing our character deep dive. Normally we do it on the second week of the month. We're actually, because of pushing back our review of Maul Shadow Lord, we are keeping it thematic, though. We are doing our character deep dive into Darth Maul. I've been waiting for a while to do this one, and it just kind of timed out perfectly. So that is who we're going to be discussing. We're going to talk a little bit about his history. We're going to talk about what drives him, his psychology, and everything in between. So I'm looking forward to this. What about you guys?
Yeah. I am too, and I don't know if I mentioned this, Brian, last week, but a couple weeks ago, Brian, I just finished the Darth Plagueis novel recently.
Okay.
And I kind of had a grin on my face when Maul is first introduced. I'm like, oh, we get to see Maul. Okay.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it.
And it was the famous scene where Maul is Maul delivers his line at last. We will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. Is overheard by Plagueis.
We shall have a
droid 114D.
Yes. Which I love 114D. He was a very, very cool droid. I really liked him.
114D is
Maul
is an interesting example of the kind of droid mentality that we talk about when we deal with sentient droids, because 114D watches Plagueis murder his whole ship of crew members, and 114D is just completely blasé about it. Well, guess I work for you now, and absolutely loyal to Plagueis for 40 years after that. And then Sidious kills Plagueis in the same exact way, and that's what's fun for me about sentient droids is they are personalities, they're sentient beings, but they are also programmable, and their simulated loyalty is in no way real. And so, 114D spent a long time working with the crew of that ship, and then Plagueis murders them all, and 114D is absolutely no interest whatsoever in preserving that. Like, okay, that's fine, I work for you now. Good stuff.
That's cool. So, today on the episode, we're going to be.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Never mind. You go ahead.
No, you. Sorry, You go ahead.
All right, well, what I was going to say is I was going to talk about how we're going to break down the episode today. we're going to talk about we're going to start with Maul's origins and his indoctrination into the dark side and becoming a Lord of the Sith. Then we'll talk about some of his anger issues, which for anyone who's a Sith, they usually have some. And then we'll move on to his obsession and his destruction, and eventually his clarity and meaning.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So for me, like starting off, I mean, obviously, canonically, his origins stem from him being, and we get to see that explored in the Clone Wars animated series a little bit more, as well as in the comics and in some of the novels. But he is initially like he was introduced as an Iridonian Zabrak, which I thought Iridonia was like its own separate planet, but apparently, according to the canon of the Clone Wars, he was actually born as just a Zabrak on Dathomir. So it kind of makes me wonder how that change came about when there was some stuff that already pre-established it before they changed it for the Clone Wars and then got recanonized in under Disney. And he was recruited at a young age, pulled in by Palpatine, who trained him in the dark side, basically just tortured and abused him until he had like the perfect killing machine.
Mm-hmm. As one does.
And I feel like without any like augmentations, for me, there's a parallel between the stuff that Maul goes through and the and the kind of the history that Wolverine has in the X-Men comics. They're being tortured and abused to become these living weapons that are going to be disposable at some point. The only difference is one can heal really, really fast and is bonded with an unbreakable metal. Now, maybe you can kind of enlighten me on something, Brian. It feels like Maul's name wasn't like an adopted name like other Sith Lords. Like this was like his actual name, and he just became Darth Maul.
Yes.
The only conversation we have about that is in the Plagueis novel, where we see his mother, who is holding him as an infant and is his given name.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is really interesting. I find that really interesting is seeing Maul, the fact that like most of the Jedi younglings, most of the time the Sith are, when a person is taken in by a Sith to be an apprentice, they are already an adult. They're already fully fledged. Usually they're a former member of the Jedi Order, or there's somebody who is that the Jedi has overlooked, and they're taken at it maybe at a young age, but it's usually as they're already fully like a teenager or a young adult or something like that, or at that age, whereas Maul was taken in as an infant. So, I mean, you always have to ask the question, did he have a chance? Did he ever have a chance at a normal life of not being pulled into the dark side? I mean, was everything?
I mean, even in the expanded universe, he was born to a Dathomiri Night Sister who gave him to Sidious to protect him from Mother Talzin. I mean, he would one way or another he was doomed.
Yeah.
So had he stayed there, he would have been a Night Brother, which would have made him basically just like, breeding.
Well, no, because they talk about in the Plagueis novel about how he would have been like they could only be, wasn't there something about there could only be one Night Brother, and since he already had a brother, he would have been killed.
Sacrificed.
He would have been sacrificed. Yeah, he would have been sacrificed. So
that seemed like a waste of a bunch of tattoo ink. He was already tattooed. I mean, why bother?
So that brings me to another question. So it's weird. Like a lot of the Zabraks have the tattooed patterns, but in some iterations of Star Wars, you can see Zabrak characters who have like speckling or geometric patterns on their faces that aren't tattooed on. So like, where's the like? Are these like traditional Zabrak tattoos? Are they traditional Dathomiri tattoos? Are they traditional Sith tattoos? Like, where does this come from? Because like all across the lore, I've seen different things.
I think it's a combination somewhere in between those. A lot of the Zabraks that we see are Dathomiri slaves, Dathomiri breeding stock, and so we kind of see them equipped with dark side tattooing. But like the enviably named "I'm gonna die" Jedi Zabrak has similar facial patterning, I think, does he not?
Yeah, and so did Savage Opress. Only his coloring was yellow instead of red.
Right.
Mhm.
And they all they all have creative spelling for their names. Ugh.
Well, if you look at was it Eth Koth, who's one of the Jedi, he's a Zabrak, but he doesn't have any pattern. I mean, he has like it's subtle. You because they cast a dark skinned actor to play the character, but like it's like he doesn't have the same kind of modeling or patterning as as any of the characters on Dathomir.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting what we see and then come to expect. Like all Jedi wear beige robes with brown overrobes, right? Like all Jedi dress like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Episode 4. But Obi-Wan Kenobi's wardrobe in Episode 4 is based on what desert people wear. Like that's where that wardrobe came from. It's he lives in the desert. This is what he would wear. There's no reason that would be what all Jedi wear. But because of that, that's why all Jedi wear that. And it's very similar to if you go to any like dinosaur exhibit, like where they have like these animatronic dinosaur tours that go around.
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10, you will find a sick Triceratops. And why is that?
Because of Jurassic Park.
Because of Jurassic Park, exactly.
Yeah, I've seen the sick Triceratops at Universal Islands of Adventure. Poor guy's never going to get healthy. I swear, he's on American Health Care.
That's what we expect. It's funny.
He must have a really great HMO.
I think it's interesting that Maul was never. If you look at he didn't get a Sith name as we've observed. That's just his given name with Darth tacked onto it. We don't really know much about his youth and upbringing outside of the EU canon, from what we know in the Plagueis novel. So basically, and what we know from the Plagueis novel is he spent almost his entire youth being raised by training droids. Like Sidious would apparently check in on him like once every couple of months, and just like, hey, how you doing? You still beating up those robots? Okay, great, see you again. And so, Maul had a terribly neglected childhood, even for a dark side servitor. So I think, Sidious never intended Maul to succeed him. I mean, and even, and we've discussed that Sidious is a real man of faith when it comes to the rule of two.
Almost dogmatically.
Yes, exactly. But he would never intended Maul to take over. Maul was purely a placeholder.
Yeah.
And I think they even.
Do you think he considered? Do you think he considered Maul to be a Sith, or did he just give him that title just to placate him? To be like, sure, yeah, I'll give you the title, without really thinking like, yeah, you're not. We'll give it to you to make you, whatever, but you're not really a Sith.
That's a good question. I don't think that Sidious really placated anyone, but now that you mention it, that's. I mean, who's that for, really?
I do think Sidious does placate some people, like Dooku, for example. Like I'm listening through Star Wars: Master of Evil, and the prologue starts off with Dooku, and he's on some mission for Palpatine, and it talks about how as it gets closer to the end of that chapter, that he would soon come to learn that all of the plans that he and Sidious had with one another about starting a Sith Academy were all for nothing. Like, he wanted to, because of his falling out with the Jedi, he wanted to start a Sith Academy to balance out the what the Jedi were building, and that was never in the cards. It was just what Sidious told him to get him on board.
Yeah, Yeah, that's true. Good question, Mark. Who knows?
Because for being a Sith Lord, Dooku, and we'll talk about this in another episode when we focus on him as a character, he never shows the earmarks of an actual true Sith Lord. He never has the eyes. He never does anything out of rage and out of anger like Vader or Maul do.
Yeah.
Mm.
He has the calmest lightning we
Yeah,
see.
very true. Yeah.
He dials it back to, instead of going to 11.
It goes to 11.
He'd know. He
If
really
you know,
he
you know.
throws lightning the way somebody flicks a booger. He's just like.
Yeah, that's just Christopher
So-
Lee planning his next metal album.
So getting back to Maul, I got a few few questions here, conversation questions here. What does Maul fear most? Insignificance, abandonment, or loss of purpose?
I've actually been giving that question some thought since you sent them to us the other day, and honestly, I think it's a nice combination of them because, and here's why,
Yeah.
because the insignificance isn't really the biggest issue for him, because he's always going to be. He always knows that the moment he shows up, he's going to, push the right buttons and anger somebody. He's going to get somebody's attention somehow. The fact that the Empire sent, case in point in Shadow Lord, the fact that they sent 2 Inquisitors to go after him and pursue him says a lot about.
Spoilers. I haven't got to that point yet.
I'm sorry.
Should've-
The moment they
should've
sent
gotten
a
there.
pair of stormtroopers to go capture him,
Okay. Yes.
who said anything about Inquisitors? But at the same time, though, the abandonment and the loss of purpose are probably the biggest things. Because if you look at how he reacts and the things that he is spazzing about when he's reintroduced in Clone Wars, after Savage Press finds him in that junkyard, like he is freaking out over his how Sidious abandoned him, how he was just cast aside, he was discarded, he was trash. And then because of that, his loss of purpose was the biggest issue for him. He was no longer a Sith Lord. He was no longer he was no longer an apprentice. He had nothing. And so when he comes crawling back to Mother Talzin and she starts repairing his body and starts, goes through all this process to heal him, he still wanders around purposelessness, feeling that abandonment.
What do you think, Brian?
I agree. Maul has a hallmark of achieving his goal. Even if we look to the EU canon pre-Disney, like for example, in Lockdown, he's sent to this interplanetary prison. He's denied the ability to use the Force. He does not have a weapon. He still has to earn his way into this prison hierarchy and find an arms dealer who for some reason lives inside this prison. And meanwhile, Maul is subjected to random and capricious gladiator combat within this prison system. And he fights a Yuuzhan Vong, a nice little touch there. But so yeah, I think loss of significance, I agree. And the reason I say that is because Lockdown is a perfect example. Maul is given a task and completes it, no matter what. No matter who has to die, no matter what happens. He reminds me of Herr Starr in the Preacher comics. Did you guys read Preacher?
Yeah.
There is a scene in the Preacher comics where this character is auditioning, if you will, for a special forces group. And the test put to him is an operative, a former operative of ours is in a mental institution and must be taken out. How will you take this how do you do it? And the solution is to destroy the mental institution and everyone in it and burn it down. And that's that's the sort of thing Maul would do. There's an interesting question there where someone says, what about all the innocents who died in that hospital? Because it's a religious organization the guy's joining, and he says how many innocents died at Sodom and Gomorrah. And it's a really nice touch. I like that. So yeah, I think the loss of significance would be key, because Maul is nothing else if not a reliable tool.
Yeah. Well, there's something about Maul's story that it kind of echoes John Wick to a degree. Like John Wick is a man of, he's described in the films as being a man of singular focus, and so the moment he sets himself to a task, whether it's going after Vigo's son in the first film, or he's going after finding whoever has his car in the second one, or whatever the task may be, he goes into it. He definitely, he's way more level-headed. He's got more of a plan, but you can see that there are high emotional stakes for him that really bring his anger to the surface, whereas Maul is just burning rage all the time. But the same thing, there is that obsession, that's broken with Maul. Like, I mean, here he is, like, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, considering with his anger, I think that's one thing where you can see how the rule of two can really help with the Sith, especially if you have a slightly older and more wiser master who can help a Sith hone those powers like anger. Because once you have Maul off the leash and there's no one to kind of hone that anger and sharpen it as a knife, it becomes almost like a blunt weapon. And it's a situation where it becomes not something that he can control, but it's something that's controlling him, and it becomes his identity in a way.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we see that in the way that he goes after. I mean, here he is. It's been decades since he felt abandoned by Palpatine, and where do we see him in Maul Shadow Lord? He's in a new position at the beginning of the series, but his goal is ultimately to overthrow and destroy Palpatine. He doesn't care about the Empire. He doesn't want to rule. He wants to simply destroy it. He's using whatever methods he can. I mean, by this point in the series, he's become more level-headed, but you get to a point like in Rebels, which is further down the line in his future, and that single-minded focus and that obsession with the people who have wronged him takes him all the way back to Kenobi on Tatooine, and it gets him killed.
Yeah.
So
then the question is, if anger becomes someone's identity, can they ever choose a different path?
In Star Wars?
Well, Yoda says it forever will it dominate.
Or yes.
Depends on what sagas they're in.
Really,
time
this is true.
was, no, it was. But they, in the more modern storytelling, we like to see a switch. We like a redemption arc a lot more. So yeah, right. I think so. I'm glad that they didn't try that with Maul. I think it was interesting, if not unsurprising, that they redeemed Kylo Ren. I wish they hadn't. Kylo Ren's
but no, I mean, we can get to that. I'd argue that in a way, Maul did, and let's get to that right now since we're talking about this. I think Maul in a way did redeem himself. I think it was at the very end he saw that. I think he realized that his anger was eating him up, and that it had destroyed him. And if you look at I don't think he fully turned to the light side, but I think he died when he was cut down by Obi-Wan. I think he was at peace. I think it was a realization of with him and with, I think he experienced like full clarity, peace, and almost a connection with Obi-Wan. Like he understood, like, this has been for nothing, but I'm okay with it. I'm at peace. I think all that anger, once he was cut down, I think all that anger, all that rage just kind of dissipated. And you can see in the way he talks to Obi-Wan. It's not with anger, it's not with rage, it's with almost with resignation. Like, this is the
Obi-Wan
end.
has been the only constant in Maul's life.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan is the closest thing Maul has to a friend.
Yeah. It's, I mean, ultimate frenemies, but I don't know if
I'd like to see that explored more. Like, I always loved the relationship that we see between Asajj Ventress and Kenobi. Like, they've just spent so much time fighting. They're just like, hey, what's up? Asajj Ventress and Obi-Wan Kenobi remind me of Aziraphale and Crowley from Good Omens, if you've read or seen that show.
I have not.
So the premise of Good Omens, just real quick, the premise of Good Omens is David Tennant and Michael Sheen play, respectively, a demon and an angel who've been on Earth for 6,000 years. David Tennant plays, it's implied pretty clearly, David Tennant plays the demon who tempted Eve with the apple. And Michael Sheen plays the angel who who basically stood at the gates to Eden when Adam and Eve were kicked out.
Okay.
And so while Tennant and Sheen's characters are nominally opposed to one another, we've lost Mark. While they're nominally opposed to one another, for 6,000 years they have also been the only constant in each other's life. So they have over the course of 6,000 years become quite close. And there at some points they do each other's errands. They're like, look, I was gonna thwart you anyway, but I've got a meeting over here. Can you just not do the miracle you were gonna do? Just like cover for me. And the angel's like, okay, sure. Anyway, so I think it's interesting to see that conversation between Kenobi and Maul at the end of that show.
Oh, yeah.
Great. I had to Google it because I was like, who is he talking about? Because like there's just all pronouns. Is he who will avenge us? Who's he? Who's us? What's happening? And the general consensus we came across is that Maul is talking about Luke. Is that where you get that?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that I got as well, because by that point Luke was born, and so we got to that understanding, because like the way that episode of Rebels plays out, it's a little bit different in the Dark Horse Star Wars Visionaries graphic novel that came out back in the early 2000s, but in that one, Maul is not killed by Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan actually hesitates. It comes to the point where, you see Maul. He's got the mechanical legs, the ones that we see him first get from Mother Talzin before they become more refined and more human-like. Mm-hmm. But and he goes to Tatooine. He's facing off against. He actually tries to take Luke and Lars hostage to draw Obi-Wan out, and it works. And Obi-Wan shows up and fights him, and it gets to the point where he has cut off because like Maul's horns have grown out into like horns, like almost like a crown, and so like he has cut through some of them. He has severed the double-ended lightsaber that Maul is wielding. He's damaged his prosthetic limbs, and Maul is just sitting there kneeling on the stand in front of him, and Obi-Wan's got his lightsaber pointed directly at Maul's forehead, and he hesitates because you can see that he doesn't want to kill Maul. And then all of a sudden, Maul gets shot in the side of the head by Owen, who's wielding his blaster rifle again. And he's just like, look, get out. Like by this point, like Luke is 4 years old, and Lars is like, I'll bury it. It's a desert. It'll claim the body. Don't worry about it. get out of here. I never want to see you again. And so what's kind of cool is that one little that vignette in the comics inspired what we saw between Lars and Obi-Wan in the Kenobi series and how they interact in Mos Eisley. But we also see how that informs what happened in Rebels. The only difference is who's present. Instead of having Owen and a very young Luke Skywalker being present, we have Ezra Bridger, who's kind of the audience insert there so that we could see this happen.
I maintain that you use a bridge to walk in the sky.
That's a better pun than anything I've come up with.
Apologize for that, fellas. I lost connection there for a while, so
no worries. You're back, and that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. So where were we before I left?
We were just wrapping up about Maul's anger being a weapon, or that he controls, or is it controlling him? I think that kind of segues us into the. I take that back. We were talking about it being an identity that they can choose or come back from. I think there are several. I think there are several points where Maul has that opportunity to choose, and ultimately he makes the choice of doing what is easy over doing what is right. But it's interesting to see moments where he does do the right thing, like he does offer to help train Ezra to be a better Jedi, but it's with ulterior motives. He does try to. I don't want to give anything away in what's happening in Shadow Lord, but he does do some things that are to the benefit of other characters. But he's using it because he's got that ulterior motive again.
Right.
And the fact that he is the especially in this series, and I'm really looking forward to talking next week about your guys' review. He undergoes some tremendous character growth and development that we haven't seen in other entries where he's been presented. Because
one thing I've appreciated.
No, go for it.
Oh, sorry. One thing I've appreciated that they have done they did in the Clone Wars and what I've seen so far of Shadow Lords and in Rebels is when we first see Maul the first time we see Maul in Episode 1, he's almost a very one-note character. Like, he's got the cool double-bladed lightsaber, he can fight, but he almost seems like this sort of just weapon. Like, there's no depth to him, there's no intelligence to him. But then when you see him in Clone Wars and you read, the comics and other things, you find out he is a super intelligent character. Like, so. And I heard one person describe him one time as being the Sith's Sith. Like, if there's anyone who got so deep entrenched in the Sith philosophy and the Sith ideal, it was Maul. Like, he knew the code. He knew everything about being a Sith, which was why I think it was so difficult for him when he was rejected by Palpatine. And because that was his whole identity, which, I mean, was being a Sith. And he almost like he has to start over again. He has to, get this new identity of who he is and who, what is he and who is he? Because he'd been a Sith literally all his life.
Well, I've bemoaned
that was the
here
only life he
how
knew.
bad it is for a Jedi to get kicked out of the Order because they've spent their whole life in it. Imagine for a Sith to get kicked out. Like, not only is this been your whole life if you're Maul, you also have been taught that you are the number 2 in the galaxy. There's only 2 of you.
Yeah.
Your boss is going to be the king of the galaxy, and you get to be his number 2. Oh, sorry. Actually, you're fired. And now you're not in the club anymore.
And most of the time, if you get fired, you get killed.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the other thing. At least with a Jedi, if you're kicked out, it's like, you're not going to get killed. You're just given a desk job somewhere or sent to a farm.
Don't
you're not
use
going to
these
be
demigod powers for evil either. Don't you do it.
exactly.
No one will be able to detect you doing it, and there will be no consequences if you do. But don't do it.
Now, one of the other questions I had on there was with Maul's anger. Was that really his anger, or is that something that was put upon him by years of indoctrination and of torture with the Sith, with being the Sith?
Well, we can't possibly imagine what it must have been like growing up as Maul. To begin
Yeah.
your life with a full body ritual tattoo, and then proceed on to be raised by combat
Yeah.
training robots. The only living being who ever interacts with you is your Sith master. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that anger is probably performative, but he's probably unaware of it. You know, like whatever aspect of his rage is manufactured, he probably can't access the distinction between what he's putting on and what he legitimately feels.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's had a rough life. I do think it's interesting. What I would like to see is some Maul poetry, because I think he would. I think he must be an amazing writer, because all that time spent completely alone with no other organics to talk to, all he's got is a library of generations of Sith knowledge. That's his only only entertainment. And as you said, we know he's an intelligent person. We know that he's a thinking being. He's not just practicing his Donatello moves all day long every day. Like there's got to be more to it than that.
Yeah. Oh, I can't think of
Donatello
his
was
name.
the turtle with the staff, wasn't he?
Actor. I believe. But I love the voice has been given now in the animated show. It's just so it oozes terror, but at the same time intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, Maul's a fascinating character.
You can see this
his...
is you don't want to mess with, but
the process for Maul is broken down. Nobody's ever supposed to be in Maul's position. You're not supposed to be a failed Sith who's still alive. Anyone in his position is, as Garrett said, anybody who's in his position is supposed to be dead. And so, which is perhaps one reason we see him achieve such power in the criminal organizations of the galaxy, because nobody, the galaxy has not seen this situation before. Someone with Maul's power, with Maul's abilities, with Maul's motivations, and yet unfettered by Sith dynamics. So previously, anybody that had this capacity, their capacity was steered by the Sith Order steering them in the direction. Now here's somebody who has a lifetime of Sith training, and he's quite powerful in the Force, and his only motivation is what he feels like doing. No wonder he's a good crime lord. He's got he's got cosmic powers dedicated to whatever he feels like doing, and he puts it to good use.
Yeah. I'm trying to think where else we can go with this. How
do we feel about his?
What do you think ultimately was Maul's obsession?
His obsession? I think that Maul really got on board with
with getting revenge.
Taking revenge. He was fully on board with that, and I it's almost comical in the books how in the tank Maul is for having taken revenge on the Jedi. Like, you weren't there. Why are you so mad about it? Like, he's completely bought it. And when he's no longer allowed to be in the club, where does that go? Well, now I want to take my revenge on Sidious. And which is interesting to me, that he's not like I mean, I guess he doesn't have a lot of credibility, but he doesn't try to go public with Palpatine's. He doesn't try to embarrass Palpatine, put him on blast or whatever. You know, put his business out there on Spacebook. He's taking it. He's handling it in house. I like that. It's an interesting approach.
Yeah.
But
Did I just hear a Star Wars pun on social media?
yeah, Spacebook. Yeah.
I like that.
So yeah, Maul is definitely well suited to the vengeance aspect of the dark side. That's what he was definitely. I think what he was geared towards when he was a Sith, and then post official Sith, while he's still, trying to build his own order, as it were. He's still geared towards vengeance, and as we touched on earlier, he doesn't want to run the galaxy. He just wants to make sure that Sidious doesn't. And to Maul, I think that's the ultimate revenge. Is not so much I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to make sure that the thing you wanted to do you can't do. And he knows how much effort Sidious put into getting in that role. So if Maul can break the house of cards that Sidious built, he knows what that'll mean.
I think what's interesting though is piggybacking off of that, Brian, is that I mean, I believe it's in Rebels. Maybe it's before Rebels. I take that back. It's in Clone Wars. Maul has that vision from the Force about just how off balancing Sidious's plans are for the galaxy. At least from the spiritual side of things. From a logistics perspective, yeah, like what Sidious does through Anakin does bring balance as far as like narrowing down the number of Jedi available in the galaxy. But that is not, like, looking back at it, it's kind of it creates turmoil. It creates abject slavery across the galaxy. People don't have the freedom to choose, and if they do choose, their options are incredibly limited. It's either basically become a criminal to do the right thing, or you're already a criminal, do something far, far worse just to survive. And Maul sees that, and while his plans are still for that revenge, it's ultimately he sees just how evil Palpatine is and how much Palpatine needs to be removed from existence. So.
It's fun to me to see characters who are otherwise mundane or, in other ways savable. It'd be interesting to see what would Maul have been had he not been born to a Dathomiri Knight's sister, had he not been raised by Sidious. And so the scene you just painted, Maul sees what Sidious is bringing to the galaxy. And we see something else too when one of the protagonists of Lost Stars sees Palpatine face to face. That's what sends her. It's what convinces her that the Empire is wrong, is just seeing Palpatine. And it's interesting to me, it's not Force sensitivity, it's just, but it's a kind of sensitivity to see the man in person and realize, oh, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And that I think is touching on where the it's not fan theory, maybe, the notion that the dark side itself is what is out of balance. The dark side itself is what needs to be adjusted. Is that the mere presence of Palpatine is wrong enough that it is off-putting enough that will turn a lifelong loyalist to the Empire will realize that she's wrong. That even Maul will realize, oh, this is not right.
Well, I think there's something interesting else about that, is that I think there's a part of Maul, and I don't think he has the emotional vocabulary to really describe it, but I think there's a part of him that feels remorse and guilt for the part that he had to play in Palpatine's rise. Because while he had been used as essentially an assassin for the most part, he had a part to play. Like he was going through and he killed Qui-Gon Jinn, which is what put him into, which is what kind of forced the council to give Anakin the training. It forced their hand because Obi-Wan made a promise that he was going to fulfill Anakin's training, whether the council approved of it or not.
Which and why the council had to honor Obi-Wan's promise to Qui-Gon is beyond me, but yes, it's definitely
Yeah, and
events
so
were put in place by Maul's actions that culminated in Darth Vader.
yeah, and so I think he recognizes that, and whether but he just can't put a word to it. He can't describe what it is that he's feeling.
Well,
I think that's guiding him to some extent.
Well, when you mentioned that, this got me thinking. I think part of it, like I mentioned before, of Maul being a very much a Sith, and I think for Maul, and this is just a fan theory, I think Maul saw like the eventual Sith coming to power as something that would be ultimately good for the galaxy, like the ultimate good. And then he looked and he saw what Palpatine was doing and thought, you're not doing this necessarily for the betterment of the galaxy. You're doing this for yourself. This is something that you want. You don't. And I think that was maybe where almost a disconnect came between him and Palpatine, and why he wants to, not just because of what a Palpatine did to him, but for Maul, I think being a Sith, he saw like, okay, our goal is, we're harsh, yes, we do it, but ultimately it's going to be best for everyone in the galaxy. Yeah. And I think he realized that Palpatine didn't care one lick about the rest of the galaxy. He cared only about himself. And I think you can see that Maul does care about those. I mean, you can see it in the way in this is what I've seen, and we'll do this when we do our review of Shadow Lords, of how he treats the people under him, how he they respect him because they know that that he won't do himself. And it's not just there's under him.
It's been kind of hard to.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. We'll talk about that when we get to the breakdown of the Maul series. That's something we can talk about when we get to the breakdown of the Maul series.
Yeah.
But to start wrapping it up, since I'm having a lot of lag issues here. So, final thoughts on Maul.
As a character, he's fantastic. He's probably one of my favorite Star Wars characters from the prequel era moving forward. Just because he went from being a one-note assassin to being a very complex and multi-layered character, and I like that.
Yeah, I agree. Maul was a real tragedy in Episode 1 that he was on screen for 11 minutes and then ostensibly killed. He sort of followed in the patterns of some of the best villains in cinema, though. At that point, Darth Vader's on screen for 14 minutes. Hannibal Lecter's on screen for 11 minutes. It's not without precedent, but the fact that he's been so recontextualized in Clone Wars and Rebels and in the books and comics ever since then, he's an outstanding villain. And Garrett, I mentioned while you had stepped out, he's unique in that there's not really supposed to be a surviving ex-Sith, as you alluded. No one's supposed to be in this position. You're not supposed to have this level of power and be ungoverned. And so the fact that he has stepped away from the Sith Order's governance and is still possesses all that power, that motivation, puts him outside of the box, and it makes him for a very interesting villain. And I think I don't usually go in much for the crime lords because I like the cultiness of the Sith stuff better. But Maul bridges that gap very nicely for me. I'm loving the show, and I've got all his comics and big fan.
Good. Yeah, I think the same. I think I kind of mirror what you guys have said. He's been a very, from a character that was very one note to one of the most dynamic characters, and a character that is so, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but like so much depth to him, from a character that was very one note to probably one of the most deep characters on the dark, at least on the dark side, that we've got outside of maybe Vader himself. Like, just such a deep character, and I think they've done a really good job of making you sympathize with them, but and somewhat, but at the same time, never fully like, this guy is bad, this guy's evil, but you can feel for him, you can understand him, you can empathize, and and even sympathize with him in some sense. So, yeah. Wow, this has been I think it's been a really good discussion, technical difficulties and all. Brian, why don't you tell the folks out there where they can find you on the interweb?
By all means, you can find me on Facebook at the Sith Library and Archives. I post as Darth Carosis, one of several admins there. I also recently started posting on the Galactic Empire as Lieutenant Commander Merryweather. One is more dark-sidey, one is more Imperial military type stuff. I think you'll enjoy it. And for those of you who are interested in the retail side of the house, you can find me on Etsy at Carosis Designs. That's you'll find posters and mouse pads and things like that. So yeah, come on out and see us. So yeah, Sith Library and Archives and the Galactic Empire on Facebook.
Very cool. As for me, you guys can connect with me on Instagram and X.
Right.
I kind of jumped the gun there. You guys can connect with me on Instagram and X at GKJ_publishing, where I talk about my books. I talk about my show The Right Way, as well as I post out and share out what we do on Feast of Fandoms as well, whether it's on War of the Stars or on the other show that I help co-host, Snackame, where we eat snacks and talk anime.
Nice. All right. As for here at War of the Stars, if you want to get a hold of us, our email is warofthestars1@gmail.com. We're on all other social media at War of the Stars 77. If you want to support the show, that is kofi.com/War of the Stars. That is ko-fi.com/War of the Stars. Or go to spreadshirt.com/shop/War of the Stars and check out all the cool merch there. As Garrett mentioned, we are a proud member of the Feast of Fandoms. Check out all the shows in Feast of Fandoms. They're right there if you're watching us on YouTube. If not, it's a really cool site. Just go to Feast of Fandoms, just search Feast of Fandoms on YouTube, and there's literally something for everyone. Just click the little square up there if you're watching us, and that will give you all the information. We are also a member of the Red 5 Network over on Spotify. Check out red5network.com, and you'll be able to find us. I'll make sure to get the link in there in the descriptions, everything for all of that. Check out all the shows there. Next week, we are doing our review of the Darth Maul series, so check that out. That's going to be a lot of fun. Again, Maul Madness, yes. Happy Star Wars Day. Thank you guys for listening, and check us out next week. And as always, remember, not just my Star Wars, not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. May the Fourth be with you. Until next time, go Abs!